right, all right. How you doing today, Mr. Carroll, Pastor Carroll of
Doing well.
Antioch Church?
Yes, yes.
How you doing today? How's everything in Shreveport?
I'm doing well today, Doc. Everything's well in Shreveport. Delighted to be on this call with you on today. Yeah.
I am so happy to have you here. Um, we talked a little bit beforehand and got to know each other. Everybody knows that I'm here in the Atlanta area in Stockbridge, but you are connected to the Atlanta area also. You used to stay here, and your wife, just like mine, is you got a Georgia peach with you.
Most definitely. I went there for, well, first I was there as a 3 and 4 year old. My father attended the Morehouse School of Religion there in seminary. And then once he graduated, went on travel to other churches, St. Louis, California, North Carolina. And then once I was called into the ministry, the next call was called a preparation. So I returned to the Interdenominational Theological Center, where I did my seminary work there for several years. And
Cool,
met
cool.
my wife there on the campus of Clark University.
All right, right there, the AUC. Well, you know something. Let's go to the very beginning, and I'm gonna have you just introduce yourself with your full name and your position, your church, and we're gonna talk about where are you originally from and how did you make that journey to Shreveport. So go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us about your journey.
All right, I'm Bruce C. Carroll Sr. I pastor the historic Antioch Baptist Church, located on Texas Avenue, 1057 Texas Avenue. Been there now for 5 years. I started preaching there maybe 7 years ago now, just as a preacher. Pastor asked me to come. Actually, I showed up one Sunday and was late after I had preached at the Evergreen Church and just wanted to go by. And I got there and the pastor said, well, Carroll is here today. He gonna preach. So I preached, and then as time would have it, I would preach other services. And of course, then that Pastor West, W.C. West, he passed, and which began, began the opportunity to preach even more. And once things settled, they voted and called me as their pastor, second Sunday in May 2017.
All right, all right. Now, you're originally from St. Louis. Am I mistaken?
No, actually, I was born right here in Shreveport,
Okay.
1964. I'm a LSU. I'm a Confederate Memorial.
Oh, look
Yeah,
at you.
1964. My father gave a pint of blood for me to come into this world. So, but our father, we're from DeSoto Parish area. We have roots in DeSoto Parish, a community called Holly.
Mm-hmm.
Down near Grand Canyon, Mansfield area. But my father had just finished Southern University. He finished in 65, and he moved us to Winsboro, Louisiana from there to work. He started working fresh out of college. Mom had finished Grambling in 62, got married in 63. I was born in 64. And it just been just on and on and on. I'm one of six children. And father was a Baptist preacher. And so he moved around a great deal because the Lord said it's time to move. And that's how we kind of, but no, he pastored in North Carolina, Spindale. He pastored in St. Louis, First Baptist Church. And he pastored in Santa Ana, California, Second Baptist Church, and then last in Oakland, California at the Mount Calvary Baptist Church. So we kind of moved around a lot, but that's just how it happened.
Well, it's funny you talk about Oakland. I'm reading a book right now that talks about how African Americans moved around, and there is a large population of people from Monroe, Louisiana, and North Louisiana, in Oakland.
Yeah, they're from Monroe, they're from Bastrop, they're from Rayville. It's a whole bunch of them.
Yes, yes, yes. if you ever get a chance, is it's called Warmth of Other Suns. Warmth of Other Suns. That's the name of the book. I tell everybody. Oh, let me see if I can find it.
I have the book. You don't have to look.
Oh, okay, okay. You know what I'm
I'm
talking
trying to
about.
remember the author. When you said, I'm like, when you were talking about, I'm like, what book you talking about? I said, I have the book. I have two of the books, but it's not here. We have the book.
Oh, that's. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's one of my favorite books. I think
Wow.
I've read it twice.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it you know, and so all of this brought you back to probably one of the most historical churches in Shreveport because you know this church birthed other churches pretty much. Antioch was a church that some. I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to go ahead and let you get into the history of Antioch.
Well,
You know way better.
let me do this because when I called into ministry, my father pastor, he's deceased, and I have two other brothers and a sister that are pastors also. It's six of us. All of us are involved in some sort of ministry aspect. But four of us did go to seminary. When I finished seminary, my third child was born, um, and so I said to my wife, I said, I really want to go back to California and kind of plant my seed there and move, do ministry. So we moved back to California, Doc, and with a baby in arm, got to California, working, doing ministry. Uh, 2 or 3 or 4 years in, my wife says, I don't like California. I said, what do you mean you don't like California? It's a man opportunity. It's go west, young man. You heard the story. She said the houses are too close to one another, and the traffic is so thick, and I don't know nobody. Of course, and she was working as a principal. She went from teaching in the principal in charter school, and I said, man, you can't be serious about this. I said, well, let's pray about it. Let's pray about it. And she said to me, you ever thought about living in Louisiana? Now I will tell you, when we were traveling,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, we didn't miss coming home. We didn't miss coming to Shreveport, Holly, Louisiana. Father had us here. Somebody passed, or they were called big meeting days. We were often coming home. When I was in Atlanta, I'd drive, get on the highway. When I was in Miami, Florida, in undergrad, if I found two wings on a flight, I'm flying in out of Shreveport. So um, Cedar Grove, Sprague Street Bottom, uh, uh, Eden Garden was places where we not only visited, but we lived there during the summers. We stayed with our uncles and aunts. We come in town, we always had a roof over our head. So when my wife said, come to Louisiana, I said, baby, yeah, we got some property there, but I ain't really ready to do that. But, she said, well, you're going to have to figure out something. And so she won that battle. And we moved to Louisiana. Looking and looking to do ministry, looking to plant our feet, because we had been moving like military children, like PK. It's been moving all the time, and that just didn't something that I didn't want to do with a family. But seemed like it's just been happening anyway. But I get here. We spent about 4 years working at a church in Mansfield, working. No, I'm pastoring. I'm sorry. I'm pastoring United Methodist Church in Mansfield, United Methodist Church in Mansfield, and I'm having conversations about the possibilities of what Shreveport could be. And it not a big city, but it's not a small, but it has potential. And I'm blowing the whistle, blowing the horn, because yes, I was born here, and got these ideas and how things could be, and I'm moving, meeting people, and just felt like at a certain point, like I was just turning my wheels in Shreveport. I'm spinning my wheels. I'm getting down in the dirt, and I don't want to. And dirt is flashing in my face, and mud and all that. And I pick up. I said to my wife, give us 30 days, and she didn't argue. I said, we're gonna just go back to Atlanta. And I didn't like Atlanta that much. I, just go, I learned not to like it because it was people that it wasn't the people from Atlanta that you had more. It was the people that were not from Atlanta. That
Yeah.
was my circle. In other words, I just felt like I didn't want to be in that kind of environment and whatnot, and at the time, and so we went back to Atlanta, Doc, and stayed there a couple of years. I prayed to come to Shreveport, and the Lord opened the door, and we came. I did not pray to leave Shreveport. That's the story. Some of the story that people have heard. He didn't. He sent me to Shreveport. He did not release me from Shreveport. So I learned a valuable lesson because it took us 3 or 4 days to get to Atlanta from Shreveport. U-Haul truck pulling a car, and pulling a U-Haul and pulling a truck or whatever. And so I really didn't got back to Atlanta, and I didn't like it. And I'm living Mableton, went to Acworth, just wasn't. I mean, my wife I feel is happy, but I'm not on the same page. And I said to the Lord, if you ever get me back to Louisiana, I won't leave until you release me. I just saw my prayer was to get back to Atlanta because I was still sometime I'll come to Shreveport. I'll just come, and have fun. And then my story has often been, even from a little boy, I was reminded, well, that when I would come to Louisiana, I would cry when I left. I would cry. I didn't want to leave. And even as an old grown man, I would cry, get on that 20, and I'll stay here, get here that morning or whatever on Thursday or Friday. I wouldn't go to sleep till I got back to Atlanta. Just happy, just want to be around the people. Just wanted to be home. I'm sorry, not necessarily. I just want to be home. And so the Lord led us back here, and I was blessed to start working at Stonewall Baptist Church over in Bossier as the administrator, Christian education director. So I came back working, getting to know people, preaching different places, working as with our 13 district association. Had this education, had this training. My training is in Christian education and church administration. So I want to be able to teach our people how to be leaders, how to be Christian educators, bring that information to the table and grow churches, because Christian education is that ministry that undergirds each and every other ministry of the church. It's undergirds. So I want to be able to teach that. So I'm meeting people, we're having conferences, we're teaching, and I'm working at this church, about 30 ministries, and I'm having a good time. But I had preached over in Antioch a couple of times, and it got word to say, want Bruce to come over. And I'm like, okay, ain't no problem. I can go there and preach, And I preached there from July of 2015 until October 2016. And I was preaching every Sunday. They just said, just preach every Sunday. And when they got ready to call, they said, we'll stop. We're going to look at our candidates. And of course, I was one of the candidates by that time. Wasn't really, I went on back over to Antioch. Went on back over to Stonewall and continued to do the work. Wasn't even, and I get this call in May, several months later, that they had called me. I was like, oh, for real? What I'm going to do with that? Because I'm having fun at Stonewall. I'm doing ministry. I'm not the pastor. I'm second in the seat, though. And so I'm having fun because anything that I couldn't handle, I give it to the pastor. And here is the Antioch Church. I'm excited I got called. But I'm also like, they really called me? Because I don't have, I just, I laugh, I play, I got some other stuff, I'm not bad. I'm just saying that I'm not, I didn't have this gray beard neither when I got to Antioch, and so, yes, they called me, they installed me, and I'm excited, so excited to where it's casual for me. It's like, okay, I'm at the Antioch Church, and people are meeting me and say, "Oh, you the pastor of Antioch?" I said, mm-hmm. And so, it took Pastor Harry Blake to pull me to the side. He said, "You really don't understand where you are, do you?" I don't know. One day he just decided just tell me that, you really don't. He said, "You really don't understand the jewel that you have, that the Lord has blessed you with." I say, "Well, Pastor Blake, it's not like 1,000 people are there. It's not 100 people." He said, "But you don't understand where," and I said, I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I said, "I'm not, I just think there's a lot of work that has to be done." He said, "That's right. There is a lot of work to be done, but you have a historic church." Um, and I said, "Yes, I hear you." He said, "Yeah, but you don't understand." And so I left there that day, and I knew some of the history. I was cool, but I began to read. I picked up one of the old church anniversary books and looked at the history and began to read. I asked the members to give me some other stuff they could give me, they could find. It's all over the place. You know, Burton, I can't think of Mr. Burton's first name, who wrote Black of the Berry, or On the Other Side of Shreveport. Uh, and there's little information in there. And I started meeting and talking with different people about Antioch. And so even the history, what sends chills up my spine, I even said it today, that 73 ex-slaves left from a church to organize their own church. It was the first colored church. They left the First Baptist Church and to organize what is now the Antioch Baptist Church. It sends chills up my spine, the fact that these 73 ex-slaves at the turn of the century, at 1865, 1866, had enough God in them to decide that we want to have our own place of worship. Now, of course, I read stories and read other books, and sometimes things just don't jive. We don't tell the whole story. There's other stories in those stories as we look back. We don't talk about them, but I talk about them. There had to be some oppression. There still had to be some people that were in their business, even when they were trying to get out of other people's business and create their own business. And so they had to deal with that. And so I started asking those questions to people. Of course, the people that are there now at the Antioch Church are not those that were there in the 40s and the 50s, in the 60s. For the most part, these are people who came in maybe 30 years ago, or were children, and that they're really not as engaged to the civil rights movement. They were here, but the ones that so when you start reading other stories, reading other books, you start talking about the black codes and wonder how did that affect the church like Antioch, really what was going on. So Antioch, of course, it split several times. I think it's the Evergreen Church. We call it a mother church, but I say we split several times because of differences. The Avenue Church, the Evergreen Church, and the Trinity Church. And I believe the other church is called Union Mission. We're looking for information about that. But these were splits. But out of our church, it is the oldest church. It is the first Black Baptist church in the city of. It is the oldest Black Baptist church in the city of Shreveport, and so which has a ton of history, which has a ton of information, which has a lot of stories that just haven't been told. And so here I am in a community where the Lord, I believe, placed me in this community where as a little boy, I would ride my bike up and down Sprague Street, Travis, Christian, over by the graveyard. We would walk downtown, and my cousin reminded me, he said, "Cuz, you don't remember we ride our bikes all behind Antioch." I'm talking about back in the late 70s, early 80s. We would ride our bikes. I said, "No, I don't remember." So yeah, we did. We rode those bikes and we walked and we played. And so just to get called to the big church that my cousins say that they had never been in, and they didn't even know it was a black church.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Wow.
and so once again, Antioch was known for a certain type of character, a certain type of prestige. People just didn't come inside of Antioch because of the prestige. You know, there was educators, doctors, lawyers, people of importance in a sense, and they just had a certain kind of way. They had, I'm told stories. They had jackets uh, with emblems on their jackets, with the kind of represent. And so back in the heyday, this church it was a force to be reckoned with. And so like I said, the history is rich for the mere fact that those ex-slaves uh, 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 made that power move with all the stuff that was going on. You know, black man couldn't even walk down the street and spit or chew gum, or still had to cross the street and all that kind of stuff. But in the area that is located, in the history is that the avenue was flooded with black businesses. You
Okay.
know, black business, Clinton Temple, the YMCA that's there, the gas station next door to the church, barbershop, the Star Theater, where they would go to the movies, the furniture store, just so much rich history. And now, as and I guess, well, I'll say this, as freeways start coming through Shreveport, highways, which 79 was the highway. You had to come through downtown. You had to come past Antioch. It was a thoroughfare. And when highways came in, 20 comes in, and that takes traffic around, and slowly but surely, um, uh, well, slowly but surely, not only the freeways, but also the element of drugs and prostitution, gambling comes into this area, and which was at a height at one time, slowly began to fade away as people began to lose their homes. That next generation of children just did not have the knowledge or the understanding how to preserve legacies and land. And so as a result, we are here now with a community where Black people there's not many of us. And so you have the blighted, and with gentrification is on its way. And so how do you continue to maintain an area where at first was now populated by white people, and then Blacks moved in and started either renting or buying property, and as white flight leaves. And that's the history, not just in Shreveport, but in any major city I've ever lived in. Anytime Black people move into a neighborhood and white people are there, that's called white flight. And the neighborhood begins to trickle down over time. Our church is at the center of that. As people began to move outside of the inner city into the suburbs, out on Pine Road, Lakeside, of course, is not far from the community. But as people began to buy homes and to move up in the world, it takes the people, and things begin to change. Of course, now you not only have one church, Black church, but now you got umpteen Black churches where people can attend, and then they make the decision, say, okay, now we're gonna go out this way for better opportunities for our families, and mostly what happens is, and I can understand that on one level, because my parents left here, or they left DeSoto Parish and went on to Winsboro. My dad was an ag major. He got a job with the state in ag. So he went to work to take care of his family, and so once again, if Shreveport did not have provided that, he probably would have been here, or DeSoto had to provide that, he probably would have been in DeSoto. But that, so as time has it, people are not able to keep up. Now they pay their taxes. And so now we're at a place at our church, as we fast forward, because of not having the knowledge or having the wherewithal or the understanding to preserve such a historic place. We're at a point now where we're in the process of rehabbing our facility. Membership, of course, has dwindled, and COVID has not helped us at all be able to, you know, uh, uh, keep our membership growing. We just have to come up with new ways. That's what the Christian education in me, come up with new ways. And how do you take, how do you bring your new ways to when people have been stuck and this is what they believe, this is what we've been doing, this is the way we ought to do it. There's no other way to do it. And so I come in, with a whole different approach in terms of, no, we don't have to be suited and booted. No, we ain't got it. We ain't got to have a white dress on first Sunday. Matter of fact, it was on second Sunday, but I changed it to first Sunday. And so, we need to just change up and then be more inviting, not just a certain kind of people, but to all people. Not because we serve soup in a soup kitchen, but also when they come and walk in our church, be inviting to them and say, hey, let's offer Christ and let's see how we can help them. But we got to have that patience. We got to have enough God in us to even understand, because even with us helping people who are homeless, all the homeless people are not on drugs. All the homeless people don't do dope. All the homeless people don't steal and break in places. But that's what we encounter in the world in which we live. But Antioch is and I've come to at least hold us up, amen, until the floodgates open, that would allow people to say, hey, excuse me, we want to be a part of the Antioch Church that's doing ministry. So we have to look at ministry differently than we did in 1866. We have to look at different ministry than in 1965. We have to look at ministry different than when it was in 2000. Matter of fact, we have to look at it different than when it was in 2020. The pandemic
Definitely.
So, right. So you have to look at it. And so therefore, we're not in our building because it needs rehab. It needed rehab when I preached there in 2015, which I was reminded, and members, fessed up and said, Pastor Carroll, this was like this when you got here. And I said, well, I'm going to do our best to make sure that I leave it better than it was when I got there. And so we're currently worshiping on Zoom right now, and having a good time on Zoom. But we're looking at finding some space where we can worship until our building gets rehab.
And one of the things that we would like to do is when we post this up on YouTube and to make sure that we have links to where people can donate to help out.
Sure. We this is 2019. We were Vision 2020. We wrote it out, made it plain, and wham or bam, pandemic happens, and so we did not continue. We just kind of rested, and so we just kind of sat back. Then we took a deep sleep, which was wrong. But it was wrong for our church, and because we just didn't know. I didn't know. We were on Zoom and didn't quite, figure out what is it do. But this year, for 2023, our theme is renewed 2023. So we are renewing, refreshing, resetting the button, and starting off to a great year. We've got our website up. Our church has never had a website. That's a blessing. So we got our website up. And we also got our QR code that will take you directly to the historic page that talks about our building, where people can give to that support. Of course, we'll get that all to you, no problem at all. We'll link all of that. Matter of fact, we need to figure out how to link SWEPCO. SWEPCO has a website. SWEPCO Park has a website.
It's on Allendale Strong website.
It's on Allendale Strong website. So I'm
Yeah,
even looking at,
AllendaleStrong.org.
looking at once we got it up, and we got to get some people to manage it. But idea of having uh, different people who are partnering with us, to say, hey, you can go to you can go to our page and see Shreveport Park. Want to link that up together. So those kinds of and others. And so, but yeah, so we're well on our way. We're gonna make sure that we get the word out as we raise funds to rehab this historic structure. Um, um, yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's good you brought it up because one of the ways we met was our effort to revitalize the Swepco Park. Now, Swepco Park, to me, everybody know my story about Swepco Park. You can see the what is on this side, the little, we call it the Swepco Park incident. But what is your thoughts on? Well, let me just ask you this: why did you feel that you had to get involved with the Swepco Park Committee? What did that bring up for you?
So let me tell you what happened. Like I got to Antioch Church, and I went over to I met CARE, Community Foundation. CARE, We Care. That's not Community Foundation. That's Community. We Care. So I met a young man from We Care. It's called a
Community renewal.
Community renewal. I apologize. Thank you. Community renewal. I reached out to them, and then I learned about the house,
Friendship House.
Friendship houses. And so I just got to Antioch, and I went over and I began to ask questions about what's going on in the city, blah 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 blah, and so I learned that that 49, there was a big talk about 49 coming through. So we began to have, talk to different people, yeah, it's coming, no, it's not coming, yeah, it's coming, no, it's not coming. There's a group that I heard called Allendale Strong. And I began to ask, how do I get, and I asked, say, I seen information. 3 or 4 people said, I seen the information. It took 4 years. So
Wow.
when you met me, I went on, what happened was, dummy, well, once again, me getting here, trying to get rolling, getting things rolling, pandemic happened, and some said, dummy, go on the internet, type in Allendale Strong. That's how I met Kim Mitchell. I sent out an email, and he responded back to me about Allendale Strong. That's how I got information about Allendale, because I was asking, and the people that I was asking for some, either they forgot, got busy, just never said, hey, let me send it to you, let me email it to you, let me put you on a list. And so when we met, I believe I had just got a hold, he invited me. I think we sat down and ate. Another young man, I can't remember his name. We had eaten before, had breakfast, whatever. And so Kim began to share vision about, and I'm still trying to figure out, because what I'm hearing, and from the people I'm hearing, is that 49 is coming through. There's some churches that are going to be benefit because of the highway that's coming through. Well, it's not coming through Antioch. Hello? Antioch doesn't have to move. So my main goal in learning, much like a new pastor trying to figure out what's going on with Antioch, so I would hear pastors talk about it's coming through this church, coming through that church, we're about to make, and that's what I heard. When I get to Allendale, when I hear about Allendale, no, that's not going to take place. But once again, the information to even meet with y'all had not come to me until I typed it in, and I met with Kim, and now you own sharing Shreveport Park incident. You got, and I've seen that garden, and what kicks in is that I'm an environmentalist. I'm also a part of a movement called Green the Church. The church, and so where we have several pillars. Sustainability is one of them. I meant to have them in front of me. Sustainability is one of them. Social justice, food justice, going into the communities to teach people about sustaining or taking care of God's green earth. And so the idea with that is we want to get information out to our to particularly our Black churches, because once again, when you start talking about the environment, we look at climate change and look how in November it's 70 degrees. You know, where you get that from? You know, where you get
Yeah.
that from? You know, where you get that from? And so, but we've been this is the work that we've been doing in Baltimore, in Virginia, in DC, in Dallas, in California, in St. Louis, where we did a conference that dealt with water that was contaminated from the grounds. So here I come to Shreveport, Louisiana, and start talking about green church, and they like, you know, it's almost like moving a brick wall, because you got to sit down and have a conversation. Because if I'm talking about it, then our people can't seem to catch the vision, you know. But if our great brothers and sisters are talking about it, it's oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, okay, we'll listen. And I'm saying we've been talking about this for long. So once again, you know, for me, I start thinking, is that ice colder than my ice? Because I've been having the same conversation. Climate control, climate reality. Uh, uh, there's a problem with the climate. There's a problem when people in this state, they dig in the earth for natural gas and oil resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a red state. So when you start talking about solar panels, when you start talking about retrofitting buildings, saving energy, uh, uh, planting your own garden, making sure the trees are there,
Water
uh,
conservation.
water conservation. There you go, Doc. When you start having those conversations, then somebody says to me, you look at the world slowly fading away. And when a preacher says to me, well, you know, God is coming back, I'm like, come on, man, y'all stop that. You know, yeah, that's scripture. I'm not saying, all I'm saying is that we got to take care of what God created. He left us here to take care of it. What happened with that scripture? In the beginning, you know, he created us, and he made this earth, and he put man there to take care, to subdue it, to take care of it. That's scripture. But so the reality is people left where our foreparents were sharecroppers, where they took care of the land, where they lived off the land. Hello, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when they left there, when they left the country, because they didn't want to be connected to watermelons, they want to be connected to going out playing in the dirt. They left for a job in the city. You can go to the store, you can buy, you know, you can get it on credit, and you always have to pay them back. We stopped making our own food, and so those kind of conversations we have within the Black church, within our church for preservation. Uh, and so I'm trying to think, why did I go there with you on that level? But we're conservationists, and so we want to teach people to take care of God's green earth. And so how do we do that? So you build infrastructure. You build the drainage where it doesn't go back into our lakes and our ponds and our rivers. You know, you build the infrastructure, you retrofit your buildings, you know, so that when you blow your air condition, your heat, you're not paying enormous amounts of using more enormous energy, nor you having these high bills. You get solar panels on your homes. So all these kind of things. But you also look at places like Cancer Alley, you know,
Oh yes.
you know,
That yeah.
where the ground has been polluted, and they built Section 8 homes on them, and our children are living in them, and getting cancer. In California, of course, they were giving the asthma, you know, and so once again, you look at this to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And so now, so when we talk about Allendale Strong, and because one thing I knew was what I said earlier was that the churches were getting ready to leave out of those communities and get money, get paid. I said, oh, okay. But when I meet, when I find out what Allendale Strong, I'm like, hold on. No, that don't need to fly like that because um, you're gonna go in and now you're gonna pollute. You're gonna pollute the area, and you're gonna move people out of community. Well, you're gonna move in a freeway or change the infrastructure now where people are living, and they're gonna, they got exhaust, electrical wires. You're looking at all this stuff that can affect our health, that can affect our lifestyle slowly,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I think that there has to be a conversation said to make sure that at the end of the day, we're treated with some type of fairness and get the information out and be able to, but once again, we're always the last to know and catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, we ask the people in our communities, how do we get to this point? Where are the people? The question I ask, where are the people that's going to stand up together and say, no? When you look in the community, you have a handful of people that are fighting. And so my task is you have to be prayerful, but also to be that voice when you start talking about bringing in stuff that's going to continue to tear us apart. Um, we look at Cedar Grove, where the freeway divided a community. You also
Mm-hmm.
look at where there are walls up and people live right there where they get the freeway passed right by their house, but there's a wall up, and I'm sure if somebody began to do some type of test, I'm sure you would find where people have uh, contracted some type of disease or element to where that sickness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, those walls, and it was a problem that happened here in the Atlanta area, where those noise reduction walls, they figured out that the people that stay right next to the interstate are dealing with a type of noise pollution that affects their sleep, and right, and affects their rest and affects their daily, just them daily going through the motions with their homes right there next to the interstate. That noise pollution is involving into their daily way of life. And they tested a lot of people that stayed in certain areas, and these certain areas they found out in the Atlanta area that the Georgia DOT, Department of Transportation, was taking the new noise reduction walls, the new ones, the ones that had been tested and brand new, newly bought, and installing them in higher end areas. And the ones that they knew that wasn't working quite as well just so happened to show up in the areas where it was predominantly poor and predominantly minority.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That
So
always happens. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was just, Shreveport. What was the little thing back in the day about a year ago where they were talking about the light poles? How in one end of the Shreveport and Highland they had these very decorative light poles, but that the older light poles were being put up in Cedar Grove, Lakeside, if they got one. So, but coming back to you know the environmental part, and we were talking about Swellco Park. One of the things about Swellco Park right now, I mean, one of the things that with Swellco Park, it is a green space, but it is a green space that is not being utilized because it has not been groomed for people to use these green spaces. And for right now, we have a lot of green space, and there was a study done in Japan where the Japanese were actually encouraging their citizens to go into the woods and to walk around, and they would make trails for them to walk around in the woods, and they said that it reduced stress, right? It
Wow.
reduced stress, and it helped them make it through the week, right? And we don't have those type of spaces in the lakeside, Allendale, Cooper areas. We have parks, right?
Right.
We have parks, but these parks are not conducive to these green spaces, right? And then we have a lot of ideas, right? We have ideas of making a walking trail. We have ideas to make an inclusive playground for kids that have physical and mental disabilities.
Sure, 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 sure,
and,
sure.
and and one of the things that I think that goes right up your alley is we're actually looking at ways to mitigate water, to mitigate just the flowing of the water, and we also want to mitigate the changes that we make to the flora and the area that we're at. So we're going to make a trail. We want to make sure that our kids can see the plants and trees
Yes,
that we
yes.
grow up seeing.
I grew up also. I went to school. No, I didn't go to school there. I'm gonna say the name of it. It's on what street that park goes up to and turn left. What street's the park on?
Patsman?
It's on Paxman. But where's the school at?
Are you talking about Ingersoll?
Ingersoll. My mom was pregnant with me when she taught at Ingersoll. And
What?
they sent her home. There's a white prince. They sent her home because they found out she was pregnant. So she had to go home. 1964. And
What?
so,
My mom went there. I went there. My whole
wow,
family went there because we stayed right
wow.
out Christopher Street, right, right,
I
right,
guess.
right by Shreveport Park. But go on. I'm sorry. Go
So
ahead.
my
Go ahead.
so my aunt lived on Hoseman in
Mm.
apartments there for years. And so we would come visit. So we started talking about Shreveport Park. I didn't really. So when it came up again, I got in my car and I said, "Oh, I've seen this space." And there used to be some park stuff out there for the kids to play on. And I saw the pavilion and I saw the water. And I got out of my car and I said, "Oh, okay, this is a green. This is a perfect." And because I've been other places, so you can imagine what it could be. Bird Park. I mean, what you could imagine uh, that you got a place that says for birds, or a place for mosquitoes, or a place for insects, or a place for flowers where bees can pollinate.
Pollinate. Yep. Yeah.
So you can create those spaces. And I started saying, wait a minute, man, there's a whole lot of opportunity here in this space. And it just has not been nurtured. So I stood in my car and I cried, man. I got in and took some pictures and I literally cried because what happens is, once again, our people have been given a charge in our churches. When we talk about what the Bible says, I mean, we could talk about, okay, feeding people the poor will beat you always. We can talk about people being healed. We can talk about name it and claim it. We can talk about raising money, getting all the money. But we missed the whole point about taking care of things, and taking care of our land, and that's what we have. We have land. We have that knowledge. We talk about uh, uh, a lot of stuff that can grow. It can grow in those spaces. There's healing in those plants. It's healing in some of those plants. When you talk about the Japanese just walking through a pathway where they can just breathe and can have mental stability, where they can think and take a lot of pressure off. Well, that's what growing up, we visit the country, and our cousin didn't wear shoes.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
didn't wear no shoes. They were barefoot in the country. But when you pollute the land, then you got to put your shoes on. So once again, I saw a space that's a perfect green space. It just needs some more. Uh, it needs some more influence. It needs some more people It needs some more of our people are ringing the bell. And so so that's what made me. Once I got the other side of the story and had a whole story. Once I got some more of the story, I still don't have all the story. I said, hold on, we got to figure out a way to create this, to make this space what it was designed to be. It designed to be. And once again, I don't have a only connection. Like I said, my aunt lived over there, and we would go that way, and I would see the water, the Shreveport. And I just knew it was a water, uh, but didn't. Once again, uh, I'll say this seriously, joking. I didn't live down there. I didn't.
Yeah.
But even some people that live down there missed the vision. And so we gotta figure out a way to get the word out so that people catch the vision, not just say one park. I'm right here down the street from a park called Common Park, and I've watched in 10 years, 5 years, they recreated that space. I don't know what it was before, but at you know what the Common Street Park is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That space has been repurposed. And we Antioch did a service down there, 2021, celebrated. It was a great space outside under the sky. It was something that Antioch had never done before. So I had some pushback because they
Yeah.
never had service. But I did have pushback from some people, but I had more encouragement from people who didn't look like me
Mm-hmm.
and who came to the event, and we ate barbecue and had a good time. And then in that space, and now they come back with a pavilion because they sat down, worked together, fix it up, got the people to back. And then they have a beautiful pavilion where you can have a music. So just like in that park, I think all parks ought to have, and I won't go to sleep. I'm fighting even for Cedar Grove, the park over in Cedar Grove used to have a swimming pool. No longer has a swimming pool. We kids had a swimming pool over there, and it no longer has a swimming pool, but it got closed up because people didn't come together to make sure that the swimming pool stayed open.
Yeah, I think what you see a lot of times is people just living, right? And I've had this conversation before with a lot of people, at that, you get complacent, and until you see how other people do it, a lot of times you don't understand no, this is how you do it. If you want some change, you got to change it, right? If you want something done, you got to do it, right? It's easy to move to somewhere, right? Like you said about the white flight, right? It was easy for them to leave Queensboro, right? People don't know Queensboro was all white.
Yeah,
Allendale was, in the beginning, Allendale was a haven for immigrants. So they had Jewish and Italian and all types here.
gotcha.
So they moved to something better. Black people came behind. The white people moved from Queensboro. Black people came behind. All right. So they moved. So, but right now, what will save Shreveport is the people that are here now saying, all right, then I'm here. 9 times out of 10, I ain't going nowhere. I can do something with this space I have. I can do something with this right here. Um, sometimes it takes somebody with a vision. And Pastor Carroll is that man with the vision.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Pastor, you say, I heard you say it early, and I'm gonna have to steal it myself. Is that man ice colder than mine? But it's not that the ice is colder. A lot of times people just, they see your cup with Antioch written on it, and they see somebody else's cup with something else written on it, and they just like, nah, I like that cup right there, right? But we serving the same ice, serving the same
Same
tap
cup,
water,
the same kind of cup, the same water in the same. That's right, exactly.
you
Same
know.
water. And
But in the end, and we were talking about this with Swapco Park. In the end, if I die before Swapco Park happens, Lord willing, I'm here to see my grandkids and great grandkids. But let's say something happened to me. If from heaven I see that Swapco Park is built and nobody knows my name, man, I'm still happy. I'm
yeah,
still happy. I'm still seeing it because a lot of time it's not the person that first rung the bell, right? It's usually that person that comes up later on, right?
Yeah,
It's that second and third person
that's
that
true.
people start to recognize.
That's
But you
true.
know, it got to start somewhere, and I think you're the man with the vision. You know, probably because everything you said, I agree with. It could be that everything you said, I agree with. Right?
I'm a big my piece is making sure that when things are moving in this city, making sure that the resources stay in that area. All
Mm-hmm.
of them.
Mm-mm.
All every last one of them. That they don't leave out, they don't get under the table, they don't get sideways, they don't, that the resources continue. And that's where we have a problem sometimes, is because sometimes you look at that other man's ice and you say, we're gonna go with him. Well, your resource not gonna stay in the table, it's not gonna stay in your community, period. So we got to make sure we have those conversations, whoever's sharing out the information. At the end of the day, when we sign on this document, do these resources stay in this community? Period.
Mm-hmm. That's
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 it.
huge. That's
That's
huge.
and so what happens is, and that's the question I'm going to be asking when I'm looking, as we build an infrastructure, will it be will the information or with the resources can we even continue to help ourselves? Antioch Church, 73 slaves. They built the building for $3,300. The building was, the architect who gets the credit is N.S. Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Built properties. He got a house over there. We got some other stuff that he's done, but he gets the credit, right? But hardly ever did they ever talk about the people who put the bricks on, or people who got on the scaffold. I don't
Mm-hmm.
hear about. Once again, that's why I say the history is some stuff missing that they don't talk about. And I had one deacon say that his grandmother tells the story that they bought brick. His grandmother, when they tell the story how they brought bricks up to the church. That gets left out of the equation or out of the narrative. And so, but this other piece, the question I raised, where did they get the $3,300 from?
Where?
Well, they 1865 to 1860 to 1901. That's about 25, 30 years. They were not educators then. That only happened later on. But these first slaves, they were not educated people. They couldn't have been,
Mm-hmm.
because they were ex-slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't have been, they maybe read little read little or none. So if they didn't have jobs, or what kind of jobs they had, where did they get the money? 9 times out of 10, unless somebody, I'm going to have this conversation with a person like Cheryl White, Gary Joyner. 9 out of 10, that money was given to them to make that happen. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
With the influence they had from First Baptist Church and some other, with the church they came out of. Hence says to me that we're always looking for somebody to do something for us, as opposed to doing it for ourselves.
Okay.
So if how are your children?
14 and 12.
So if you're always doing something, I did with my job, I'm always doing something for them, they'll never learn. My son liked to ride horses. I always had to help him on. Now, sometimes somebody else would help out, but did he ever learn how to put himself on a horse? Because I never stopped to say, hey, you're going to stay out here until you get up on that horse yourself. And so if we continue to do, and so as a result, this is the other piece. If I continue to give them stuff, they won't appreciate it. As opposed if I went and worked for it and got it myself. I watch my children take care of their own stuff. They go by, they take care of it. But stuff we give them to them, man, shoot, they give it away. leave it down on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it happens, even within our people, our race. They gave them this property. So I'm fast forwarding for you, just something to think about. So you were given this church. Now 100 years later, nobody said, how are we going to take care? Do we leave something in place? And had they, because when you hear history of some churches, they'll say, well, we sold chicken dinners. We had cooks, we had baked,
Mm-hmm.
we bought pennies, nickels, dimes. That's not the history. Now, unless there's some history that says that, that's not what the history says. It said it was purchased for $3,500, architect NSL, and it was built, which was a lot of money probably in 19.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of money.
I mean, that's probably, yeah, that's a lot.
But it doesn't say that they sold not one chicken dinner. So you don't, if somebody giving you something and now you're taking it and you're not preserving it. And that's why I say I want our people, as we walk through this, sir, that we don't just let nobody give us nothing, that we work for it, and because if they give it to us, trust me, then they got their foot on our necks. So let's work together for it and make sure that we're working together. This is a joint project. This isn't one-sided. And that's yellow or black. It doesn't matter white. I don't care who it is. Just don't want nobody to give us anything. And I say to Antioch, we got to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody gonna keep giving you something because your name is Antioch. They're not. They want to help you. And I don't have no problem being helped, but you got to do some work. You got to do some work. And that's where, churches, you get this grand attitude that we're the Antioch church and they ought to just help us. And I had to, no, that's not how, maybe they should, but that's not the game I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
I want
But now you if you got a big name, you gotta show them why you got a big name.
Yeah, but I don't want nobody to give me that.
Mm-hmm.
I want work, so I'm working. And I say to the membership, and I say to people who want to help us, let's go to work. Let's do this work. Because at the end of the day, even David said to Mephibosheth, he did not want to nobody give him something without him doing something in return also. So nobody needs to run. I ain't gonna say that. But yeah. So that's the big piece where we are, where the Lord has us, and you got to have people that got to have a mind to work, not just on the name alone. Once again, I said Pastor Blake said I didn't know what I had. Well, it didn't mean that somebody's gonna give me something. I got to get off my butt and do the work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit back and just think folk gonna come. We got to hit them streets. You got to have conversations like with yourself. We got to meet people. Mm-hmm. Whether we agree or disagree, we still got to have the conversations. Mm-hmm. so we can move forward. So that at the end of the day, it's okay. That's Brother Brian. This Brother Bruce. Yeah, we didn't get off to a good start. We didn't agree with that, but the idea is that we're moving in the same direction. We're trying to get done and engage people to take care of that stuff.
Yes.
Many people leave mama and them house, mama dies, daddy dies, and they didn't know they had a tax bill to pay. Or if they did, they paid and they took out a second mortgage and didn't pay it, and they lost the house. It's just, and it happens in white areas too now.
Yeah.
It happens in Chinese folk too, and Hispanic. We ain't gonna say it, but the reality is the community we're talking about where blacks were and Italians, people were there. And so now I say to my counterparts, we got some money, let's buy some property. Or let's see if we can partner with somebody to make sure that that the communities are sustained. So
I mean, and that right there, that's a whole other episode, a whole other episode. But thank you, Pastor Carroll, for talking with me today.
Man, I hope I've been helpful, man. I know I've been rattling on, and I hope I answered enough questions. And I can, And if we ever at a table, and you know, if I said it, I said it. Now, if that ain't what I meant, then we can discuss that later on. But I have no problem at all repeating what I said.
Definitely. So
So
I don't want you to go nowhere. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. And I just want to thank everybody that's listening to the podcast today. And everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And please check us out on the podcast. We are all places that you listen to your podcast: Google, Apple, all over the place. You can find Allendale Strong Podcast, and just subscribe and check us out. And please support us. Also, please support Antioch Baptist Church. We're going to have the link below on for the YouTube page, and we also are going to if you see this anywhere else, any kind of advertisement, you're going to see that link also, so you can support Antioch Baptist Church and try to get it rebuilt and remodeled so we can go and worship at that magnificent place. And thank you, everyone. Have a great day.